It started with a text meant for someone else. I was sitting in my car outside the grocery store on a Thursday evening, engine still running, just scrolling through my phone before heading inside. It had been one of those slow weeks at work where nothing moves and everything feels slightly off, like a picture hanging crooked on a wall you keep walking past. My wife Nicole had texted me earlier asking me to grab wine and sparkling water. Nothing unusual. Just another ordinary Thursday. Then my brother-in-law Derek texted me. Or at least, he thought he was texting someone else. She said he's clueless. We moved the account Saturday. Tell Amber to have the paperwork ready. This is finally happening. I read it twice. Then a third time. I sat there in that parking lot with the engine running and the heater blowing warm air across my face, and I felt something cold settle in my chest that had nothing to do with the temperature outside. Derek lived with us. Had been for 3 months. Ever since his condo downtown supposedly needed emergency plumbing work, Nicole had asked me if he could stay just temporarily, and I said yes because of course I did. He was her older brother. Family. I respected that. I'd bought us a house big enough for guests. A 4-bedroom colonial in a quiet suburb outside Columbus that I'd saved for years to afford. I thought having him around would make Nicole happy while I worked long hours trying to grow my consulting firm. I stared at that text for a long time. Then I put my phone face down on the passenger seat, walked into the grocery store, bought the wine and the sparkling water, and drove home like nothing had happened. Because something in my gut told me that whatever was going on, my best move right now was to say absolutely nothing. Nicole was in the kitchen when I got back, laughing at something on her phone. Derek was at the kitchen island eating leftovers straight from the container. Amber was there too, sitting at the dining table with her laptop open, the way she always was 3 or 4 evenings a week. I had always assumed she just liked spending time with Nicole. They had been best friends since college. Her being around felt normal. I had never questioned it. I set the grocery bag down and kissed Nicole on the cheek. "Traffic bad?" she asked. "Not too bad," I said. "Derek, I think you texted me by accident earlier." He looked up fast. Too fast. His eyes went to Nicole for just a fraction of a second, the kind of glance people make when they're looking for a signal, before he covered it with a laugh. "Oh man, sorry about that. Wrong contact. Nothing important. No worries," I said, and opened the refrigerator. I heard nothing else from either of them for the rest of the evening, but I noticed Amber closing her laptop faster than usual. I noticed Nicole refill her wine twice. I noticed Derek kept his phone screen angled away from me all night. I didn't sleep much that Thursday. I lay in the dark beside Nicole, listening to her breathe and trying to figure out what account they were moving, and what paperwork Amber was involved in, and most importantly, what exactly they thought I didn't know. By Friday morning, I had made 2 decisions. First, I was not going to confront anyone. Not yet. Second, I was going to find out everything before I said a single word. I worked from home that day, which gave me an excuse to stay around the house while they went about their routines. Nicole left for her spin class at 8. Derek left for what he called a meeting downtown, though he'd been unemployed for 6 weeks. Amber texted Nicole but didn't come by. I had the house to myself for about 4 hours. I am not proud of what I did next. But I am also not sorry. I went through the filing cabinet in the office I shared with Nicole. Most of it was what I expected: tax returns, insurance documents, appliance warranties. Then I found a folder tucked behind a manila envelope in the back of the bottom drawer. Inside were documents I had never seen. A signature page from what appeared to be an amendment to our joint business account. My name was on it. I had not signed it. My consulting firm's operating account had a second signatory line added. Nicole's name. And beneath that, a transfer authorization form dated 3 weeks ago, moving a significant portion of our business reserves into an account I did not recognize. My mouth went dry. I photographed every page on my phone. Put everything back exactly where I found it. Then I sat at my desk for 20 minutes staring at the wall, running through everything in my head. Nicole was a paralegal. She worked at a mid-sized firm downtown. She knew how documents worked. She knew how signatures worked. She knew, very specifically, how accounts worked and how to move money in ways that looked administrative and boring and easy to miss if you weren't paying close attention. And I had not been paying close attention. I thought about every dinner in the past 2 months where she had pushed my phone across the table toward me and said, "You're always working, just put it down for one night." I had thought it was about us. About connection. Now I wondered if it was about keeping my eyes off a screen. I called my college roommate Ben that afternoon from my car, parked 2 streets over. Ben was a CPA. Sharp, discreet, and he owed me a favor from the time I helped him move across 3 states on 4 days' notice. I told him what I had found. He went quiet for a moment. "Send me those photos," he said. "And don't touch the accounts." Don't log in. Don't do anything that creates a digital footprint that you've noticed. Why? Because if they're watching the account activity and they see you checked in right now, they'll accelerate the timeline. You said Saturday. That means you have one day. I sent him the photos. Then I drove to the office of a business attorney named Carol Reeves, someone a client had recommended to me 2 years earlier and whose card I had kept in my wallet without knowing why. I told her receptionist it was urgent. Carol saw me at 4:30. I walked her through everything. The misdirected text. The documents in the filing cabinet. The unauthorized signature. She listened without interrupting, made notes on a legal pad, and when I finished she leaned back and looked at me with the kind of calm that only comes from having seen worse. The signature forgery alone is a felony, she said. The account amendment, if executed without your actual consent, is fraud. How much is in that operating account? I told her. She wrote down a number on her pad and slid it across to me. It was the potential civil judgment I could pursue beyond the criminal charges. I want everything frozen before Saturday, I said. I can file for an emergency injunction today, she said. I need a few hours. Do it. I left her office at 5:15 and drove home. Nicole was already there, making pasta. Derek was watching television. Everything looked exactly like my life had looked the day before, except now I could see the scaffolding behind it, the fake walls, the stagehands moving things in the background while I was supposed to be looking at the performance. You okay? Nicole asked. You seem quiet. Just tired, I said. Long week. She smiled and handed me a bowl. Sit down, eat something. You work too hard. I sat down. I ate. I smiled at the right moments. Inside, I was perfectly still. Ben called me that night at 10, after Nicole was asleep. I took it in the garage with the door closed. Okay, he said, so here's what I found. That account the money was going into. It's a personal account opened 8 weeks ago. One signatory. Nicole. Just her. Just her. And I cross-referenced the routing number. The funds were scheduled to transfer in 2 stages. First stage Saturday morning. Second stage the following Monday. If both go through, the operating account is effectively emptied. I stood in my garage in the dark and did the math. That was nearly everything I had built over 6 years. Every client retainer, every project deposit, every dollar I had reinvested instead of spending. All of it moving into an account I had no access to. What about Derek? I asked. Derek has a debt problem, Ben said. Some bad investments and a personal loan that's gone sideways. My guess is he's getting a cut for helping manage the logistics. He probably connected Nicole with whoever helped her set up the account. And Amber? Amber is a notary. The air went out of me. Of course she was. I had known this about Amber for years, had even joked with Nicole about it once. Convenient having a notary as a best friend. It had seemed like a fun coincidence at the time. It was not a coincidence. I went back inside, washed my face, and got into bed next to my wife. She was asleep on her side, facing away from me. I looked at the ceiling for a long time. I was not angry in the way I expected to be. I was something colder than angry. I was decided. Saturday morning I woke up at 7 and acted completely normal. Made coffee. Offered to make eggs. Nicole said yes. Derek came down in a t-shirt looking relaxed. I plated everything and sat at the table and we talked about nothing in particular, the weather, a show Nicole wanted to watch. Whether Derek's condo was going to be finished in the next few weeks. I was pleasant and a little distracted, which was normal enough that neither of them noticed anything. At 8:45, Nicole excused herself to take a phone call upstairs. Derek followed 10 minutes later saying he had to run out to pick something up. He took his laptop bag with him, which he had never done before on a casual Saturday. I texted Carol. I think they're moving early. How are we looking? She replied in under 2 minutes. Injunction was granted at 7 a.m. Account is frozen. Law enforcement contact has been made. Are you ready for the next part? I typed back, yes. At 9:15, Nicole came back downstairs. She had her phone in her hand and an expression I had never seen on her face before, something between confusion and the beginning of panic. Hey, she said carefully. Did you do anything with the business account? Which one? I asked. The operating account. I'm trying to, she stopped. Recalibrated. I got an alert that there was some kind of hold. I said. That's weird. I'll call the bank Monday. She looked at me for a moment. I held her gaze and kept my face completely open, the way I'd practiced in the bathroom mirror that morning. She went back upstairs. Derek came home at 10. He walked in the front door, saw me sitting on the couch reading, and said good morning in a voice that was just slightly too casual. He poured himself coffee and leaned against the counter and started talking about nothing, filling silence. I noticed his leg bouncing against the cabinet while he stood there. At 10:30, Carol arrived. She had called ahead and I had given her the address. She pulled up in a silver sedan and 2 people got out with her. One was a colleague from her firm. The other was a detective from the Columbus Financial Crimes Unit who had already been briefed. I opened the front door before they could knock. Nicole appeared at the top of the stairs. "Who is it? Come down," I said. "Both of you." Derek walked in from the kitchen. He saw Carol and her colleague and the detective and stopped moving. "What is this?" Nicole said. She had come halfway down the stairs, one hand on the railing, her voice doing that thing where it goes up slightly at the end to imply innocence. "Nicole," Carol said clearly, "you are being served with a civil fraud complaint in connection with unauthorized account access and signature forgery on 2 business documents. You are also being formally notified of a pending criminal referral to the Financial Crimes Division." Nicole's face went white. "You have no idea what you're—" "Derek," the detective said, "we'd like to speak with you as well. You are not required to answer any questions today, but I would strongly suggest you have an attorney present before you say anything." Derek sat down on the arm of the couch like his legs had stopped working. I walked to the kitchen and came back with my phone. I played the accidental text message out loud for the room. Then I read out 2 separate voice memos I had recorded in the kitchen over the past week, capturing conversations between Nicole and Derek about the timeline, and one between Nicole and Amber about the notarization. Nicole looked at me like she was seeing someone she didn't recognize. "How long have you known?" she whispered. "Long enough," I said. "Marcus, listen to me. Let me explain. I've been listening for 3 years," I said. "I listened when you asked me to add you to the business account for convenience. I listened when you said Derek just needed a few weeks. I listened when you told me I worked too hard and to put my phone down." I paused. "I'm done listening." She tried again. Her voice shifted into something softer, more desperate. "We can fix this. Whatever you think you saw, there's an explanation. Don't throw everything away over a misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding," I said. "Ben found the transfer account. Carol has the forged authorization form. The detective has a copy of the scheduled transfer order. And I have 11 days of recordings from this house." I looked at her steadily. "You had a plan." "I had a better one." Derek stood up. "Man, look, I want to talk to a lawyer before." "That is genuinely a good idea," Carol said, and handed him a card. Amber called Nicole's phone twice during the next 20 minutes while Carol's colleague walked them through the documentation. Nicole didn't answer. The third time, Nicole's phone buzzed on the coffee table and I reached over and flipped it face down. "She's going to need a lawyer too," I said. The meeting in our living room lasted almost an hour. By the end of it, Nicole and Derek understood exactly what had been filed, what was frozen, what had already been forwarded to the prosecutor's office, and what would happen next if either of them attempted any further transactions or contact with the accounts. Nicole sat through most of it with her arms wrapped around herself, not looking at me. Derek sat with his elbows on his knees, staring at the floor. When Carol finally closed her folder and said she had everything she needed, I walked her and the detective to the door. "You held it together well," Carol said quietly. "I had 6 days to practice," I said. She nodded and walked to her car. I came back inside. Nicole was still sitting on the couch. Derek had moved to the dining table and was on his phone, presumably calling an attorney. I stood in the center of my own living room and looked at the 2 of them. "You both need to be out of this house by tomorrow evening," I said. "I'm going to stay in a hotel tonight to give you space to pack. When I come back tomorrow, I expect you both to be gone. If you are not gone, I will call the detective back and we will have a different kind of conversation about whether temporary guest status still applies." Nicole looked up. Her eyes were red. "You can't just—" "The mortgage is in my name," I said. "The deed is in my name. Everything in this house that we acquired jointly, I have documentation for. My attorney has the full asset list. Derek, your name has never been on anything here, which I'm sure you're aware of." He didn't say anything. Nicole tried one more time. Her voice broke on the first word. "Marcus, we have 3 years together. Whatever I did, you know me? You know me better than this." I looked at her for a long moment. She had dark circles under her eyes and her hair was pulled back and she looked genuinely wrecked, and some part of me registered that, noted the weight of it. But I had spent 6 nights lying next to this woman knowing what she had done, watching her pour me coffee and ask how my day was and rest her head on my shoulder during a movie, knowing the entire time that she was waiting for Saturday. The grief had already moved through me. What was left was just clarity. "I thought I knew you," I said. "That was the problem." I packed a bag, put it in my car, and checked into a Marriott 20 minutes away. I ordered room service. I watched television. I slept for 9 hours straight, the first real sleep I had gotten since Thursday. The next morning, I texted Nicole at 9 to check on the timeline. She texted back 30 minutes later, "We'll be out by 2. I didn't respond. What she didn't know yet, what I hadn't mentioned in the living room because Carol had advised me to let it land separately, at a distance, when there was nothing left they could do about. It was the last step I had taken on Friday afternoon before any of this went public. Nicole was a paralegal at Hendricks & Vance, one of the larger firms in Columbus. She had worked there for 4 years and had recently been talking about being sponsored for law school, about one of the senior partners putting her name forward for a scholarship program the firm ran annually. She had mentioned it over dinner at least 3 times in the past 2 months, excited and proud in a way that had seemed completely real to me at the time. On Friday at 3 o'clock, while Carol was filing the injunction, I had sent a certified letter to the managing partner of Hendricks & Vance. It contained a copy of the forged authorization documents, a summary of the pending criminal referral, and a formal notification that Nicole Reeves had used her knowledge of financial and legal documentation processes in the commission of fraud against her own husband's business assets. I had also attached a copy of Amber's notary commission number, along with documentation of what she had allegedly notarized. I was not angry when I sent that letter. I want to be clear about that. I was not doing it out of rage. I was doing it because Nicole had used the skills that firm taught her to try to empty my accounts, and the firm had a right to know what those skills had been applied to. It was simply accurate information, sent to the people most entitled to receive it. By Sunday afternoon, when Nicole was presumably loading the last of her boxes into Derek's car in front of my house, her phone was likely already ringing with a number she didn't want to answer. I drove back home at 4. The driveway was empty. Inside, the closets in the master bedroom were half bare. The office filing cabinet was open, several folders missing. They had taken what they could. I walked through every room slowly, taking inventory, noting what was gone. Nothing structural. Nothing that couldn't be replaced or documented. I stood in the kitchen for a while. The sun was coming through the back window at a low angle, spreading across the tile in the way I had always liked on winter afternoons. It was quiet. The house felt different, not emptier. Exactly, but cleaner. Like something that had been humming just below the threshold of my hearing had finally stopped. I poured a glass of water and sat at the kitchen table. Ben texted me that evening, "Transfer account has been flagged and frozen by the bank's fraud unit as well. Their window is officially closed." Also heard back from the contact at the firm. They put her on administrative leave this morning pending an internal review. I read that twice. Then I set my phone down on the table. I thought about the night Derek had come to live with us. How I had helped him carry boxes upstairs and Nicole had ordered pizza, and the 3 of us had sat on the living room floor eating and watching a movie because half the furniture wasn't set up yet. I had thought, this is what family looks like. I had been genuinely happy. I don't know exactly when it had shifted. I don't know if Nicole had planned all of this before Derek moved in or if the plan came together gradually, pieces falling into place as she realized how much access she had and how much I trusted her. It didn't really matter now. The plan had existed. It had been specific and organized, and she had been proud of it. That was the part that stayed with me longest, not the betrayal itself, but the pride in it. The way she had laughed on the phone with Derek, confident and sure. The casual way Amber had been prepared with her notary stamp. The ease of Derek's, she said he's clueless. They had not been nervous about hurting me. They had been excited. I filed for divorce on Tuesday. Carol handled the initial paperwork. She told me the criminal case would likely take 6 to 9 months to move through the system, that the civil judgment could be pursued simultaneously, and that given the documentation I had assembled, my position was about as solid as a position could be. "You did everything right," she said. "I got lucky first," I said. "That text could have gone to anyone." "It didn't though," she said. "It came to you. And you did something with it." That was true enough. I don't have a tidy conclusion to offer. The divorce is still in process. The criminal case is still developing. Derek hired an attorney. Amber hired a different one. Nicole sent me one email, 3 weeks after she moved out, that I read once and did not respond to. What I can tell you is that I still live in that house. The sun still comes through the kitchen window at that same angle in the afternoon. I have been sleeping well. My business accounts are whole, every dollar I built them to, plus the civil damages that are likely coming. I have hired 2 new clients in the past month, which is the kind of thing that happens when you are not quietly hemorrhaging energy into a situation that was designed to drain you. I think about that Thursday evening sometimes, sitting in the grocery store parking lot with the engine running. The moment before I read the text. How normal everything felt. How completely ordinary the weight of my own life seemed. And I think about what I did with the 30 seconds after I read it, the decision to put my phone face down, walk inside, buy the wine, drive home, to say nothing. To wait. To be patient enough to build something airtight before I tore anything down. They had planned this for months. They had been careful and coordinated, and they had genuinely believed I would never see it coming. And they were right that I wouldn't have, not on my own, not in time, not without that one message hitting the wrong contact at exactly the right moment. But once I saw it, I made sure there was nothing left to rebuild from. They wanted to take everything I had built. Instead, they lost everything they had counted on. The accounts, the house, the legal career Nicole had been working toward for 4 years, the comfortable arrangement Derek had been living off of, the notary commission Amber had been leveraging for someone else's fraud. I didn't take those things from them out of cruelty. I just stopped letting them take things from me. There's a difference. And now, finally, I know exactly what it feels like to be on the right side of it.